Okay, let's talk about what happens when you are the person who wears the final reviewer's hat when it comes to a marked up document that's been shared by a lot of other people. In this case, only two people, Weird Joe and I, have marked up this document, but you'll get the idea. While you've got the document still shared, there's a nice way to see what's happened in this document. You have highlight changes showing. All the cells that have been changed are going to have a color border around them. But here's another way of seeing what's happened in a document. When you click Highlight Changes, you can put a check mark in List Changes on a new sheet and say OK. What that does is it gives you a temporary sheet called History, and it does not stay. After you save this file, it's and unshare it, this worksheet goes away. So this is really a quick one for use by a reviewer to see what's been happening in a document. And you could even print this out if you wanted to. But as I said, it'll disappear. So another way to find out what's going on in a document is to do the accept and reject changes. And actually, before we do that, I just want to say that my personal preference for reviewing a marked up document is to start with comments. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on Show Comments. When you have a comment, you read it and you either do something about it or not, but then you delete it. So you never leave a comment in a workbook unless, I mean, just generally, unless it's marked up for a reason, you don't leave them. So I made a comment, this is a lookup. Okay, fascinating, Letty, but that's not really pertinent. So let's do Control Home to get to the beginning of the document. Click to see the next comment. That's this one here. This is a lookup, and I'm going to delete it. Let's go next to see the next one. Weird Joe says, choose someone. Well, Weird Joe, that comment is as weird as everything you say. I'm going to delete that. I'll choose next. Here's another one by Weird Joe. I buy everything here. You should only buy things from Art Supply House. Okay, Weird Joe, I get your message. I'm going to delete it now. Okay, are there any more? No, there's no next button. That means all the comments that were in this document have been read, dealt with, and deleted. Now, it's perfectly legitimate if you have a comment that asks for information. Like, for instance, if somebody had put a comment in here saying, what is our educational discount amount? Well, it would be legitimate to then put in, 15% educational discount, and then delete the comment. Okay? So sometimes you actually have to do something based on the comment. All right, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do the track changes, accept and reject changes. And what it's going to do is it's going to ask you, which changes you want to look at. I say any that have not been reviewed by all people and say OK. So it tells you how many changes were made in the document, and it gives you an accept or reject one by one. So it tells you one change and allows you to accept it or reject it. Well, in this case, I changed this to this, which is just correcting in transposed numbers. I'm going to accept that. The next change is Weird Joe changed $2 to do $100,000 for software. I'm rejecting that. The next thing is Weird Joe changed a blank to Office Supply Ink. I guess I'll accept that. Then he changed another blank to Office Supply Ink. Well, okay. And then I'm seeing he changed one to tech software. That looks good too. And then suddenly I'm thinking about his weird comment, buy everything from Art Supply House. And suddenly I'm looking at all these Art Supply Houses. Everything else could be rejected. So I can do them one at a time. I don't want to do the reject all because I want to make sure that I'm not rejecting something that's actually good. And I'm glad I didn't, because actually he changed a cell to $6, and I might need to look at that cell and decide, uh, what's actually happening there. So cell E5, so look in E5, and I'll go up to here. So he changed a textbook Office Supply Fine Arts thing to $6, but it was $21,000. So I think $6 might actually sound more reasonable, so I'll accept that. Down here, there was a change to 13,000 from 13,522 from this. So I think, again, that's a good one. And I'll accept my own edit of putting in the percentage of the discount. So I'm done accepting and rejecting changes. Actually, that's interesting. I'm still seeing some. I'm going to do again, accept and reject. And I'll say since yesterday, maybe, because I want to make sure I'm getting them all in. Okay, well, it says there are no more to accept. I guess it's just showing me my highlighted changes myself that I have made. Um, okay, so that's all done. Now, when I save my workbook, all those highlighted changes are going to go away. So I'm going to click Save. Okay, now the last thing you want to do is reinspect your document. So let's do that. Let's check for issues, inspect the document again. It's still finding some stuff. Didn't complete successfully, it says. That's interesting. And I think it's because this is still a shared document. So let's unshare it and then inspect again. To unshare it, get rid of the check mark, say OK and yes, and save. And let's do a reinspection. Okay, it did find some personal information. At this point, I'm going to just remove that. I'll reinspect, and we're completely clear. So now I can, with confidence, give this finished version worksheet to somebody.